Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is part one of my census model schedule series. I have about 5 videos for you prepared. The first one, I'm just going to explain the model a little bit, and I'm going to give you an indication of what the accuracy of this model is, and then in further parts we'll explain different scenarios in which changes have been made. Regarding, for an example, compensating for illegal immigration, compensating for different rule sets regarding distributing of congressional districts, and the post-enumeration report from the Census Bureau. So first, up here I have several columns. The first one is all the states, and then you have the population according to the census, to which I have 3 data points for illegal immigration. So we have, from left to right, we have the Federation for American Immigration Reform, study released in 2019, and in 2020 it's the same, but the data has not really changed. It's increased a little bit, but in the end it doesn't show a deviation between the 2019 numbers and the 2020 numbers, so there's not much choice on which of the two you pick. The second one, so column E, that is Pew Research. This is done in 2016. I also note that I marked the source with red, and that actually has a very simple reason, and that is because if you take the individual elements all the way from row 2 to row 52, if you add them all up together, it does not reach the total number that Pew Research indicates, which is pretty funny. And column G, you have statista.com, which is basically an encyclopedia for statistical data, and they have the entry of North Dakota completely empty. So apparently there are no illegal immigrants according to Statista in the state of North Dakota. That is strange in my opinion, but whatever. So next up we have this section. So we have column I indicates the number of congressional districts each individual state has. Note, these are only House seats, and I see this a lot where people say, oh yeah, Wyoming, they have 180,000 people per congressional district or something like that, per electoral vote. Absolute bullshit, because electoral votes are combined with the number of House districts plus the number of Senate seats. Every state has 2 Senate seats, regardless of the size of the state. As a result, you cannot count these in the distribution of citizens per congressional district. It's a little bit unfair. So, it is true that Wyoming and Montana have the lowest number of citizens per congressional district. That is true. Here's the thing though. Wyoming only has 570,000 people. Montana has a little over 1 million, so 1.1 million, something like that. And that makes it almost 550,000 per congressional district. It's true. On the other hand, you have Delaware, who has almost 1 million people living there, and they don't have a second congressional seat because they don't reach that limit yet. I'll also show you that in the model later. So what I did next is column J through M. It's basically saying, okay, we have the number of people in the state, we divide it by the number of congressional districts they have, and we give you a little number for that. So we can see, for an example, in Alabama, without compensating for illegal immigrants, it's 720,000 approximately people per congressional districts. This drops to 700,000 if you compensate using the Federation for American Immigration Reforms and their numbers. If you use Statista or Pew, then it's 710,000. So I have this nice little chart for you, and this one, you see, this uses column J. So there's this one. So the official data used. This one is used for the census, and I'll show you a few things. in the series, how the census was royally screwed up by the Census Bureau. So I have the sources indicated here, and if you would like the source, you can pause the video, you can type it in. If it's readable, I'll just check on OBS for a quick read. It's not that readable. Right, so if you want to check this out yourself, just type it in the comments. I'll give you the hyperlink for it, so you can check it out yourself. Next up, I also wanted to check this real quick when it comes to the interstate subdivisions. So these regions are for, they aren't for court, though some of them appear to be basically the same. But when it comes to the judicial districts, there are 11, no, there are 13, including DC Circuit and the Federal Circuit. So you notice that we have 9 here, and it's a little different than what the circuits for the judges are. There are 9 Supreme Court judges. There are always 2 that don't have a Supreme Court justice allocated to them. So first we have New England. And for those loyal viewers, you may also know that these subdivisions are exactly the same ones that I used for the election prediction. And, well, not more like an explainer. I will be using these divisions further down the line when it comes to 2024, when it comes to House races, Senate races, governorships, that kind of stuff. I want to make a video for each individual state, briefly explaining which elections are up, who is running in them, and I will not be doing any predictions further on down the line. Simply, the field of expertise is just fundamentally broken, and it's a waste of time predicting elections at this point. So we have New England, which exists of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Then we have the Mid-Atlantic region, which together form the Northeast. There's New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. Then we have the Midwest, which exists of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin as East, North, Central. And then Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North, and South Dakota, they form West, North, Central. Now the Southern region, which has the South Atlantic, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, North and South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. East South Central is Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Tennessee. West South Central, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. And then we have the West, which is mountain region and Pacific region. So we have Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming for the mountain. And Pacific is California, Oregon, Washington, and then the former territories turned state, Alaska and Hawaii. So what I did is I added all these illegal immigrants according to the individual sources together. And I basically calculated the same thing per subdivision, just to indicate which ones are overrepresented and which ones should receive more districts. You'll see that once I show later models, you also see that particular districts gain more seats. So we find that Mid-Atlantic, so Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, slightly higher number. This is because New York lost a seat. South Atlantic, it is still a bit on the high side, but then you have North Carolina, Florida, they have both received a seat, and it's still a little bit on the high side. And on the other hand, you have New England, which is reduced, but New England, there's a lot of people there, and they aren't really close to any receiving any districts. So the fun part about this is we have an indication here, so on where the illegal immigrants are. So in my opinion, the most accurate source is the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which is this section, and it says that Mid-Atlantic has about 2.5 million illegal immigrants. This is an estimate. In my opinion, it's a lot more. It's about double. Then you have South Atlantic, so this is Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, Virginia. This is nearly 4 million illegal immigrants. And then you have the Pacific, mostly California, where there is almost 5 million illegal immigrants. Estimate from 2019 is a little bit higher, in my opinion. It's about what illegal immigration there's. In 2021 there was about 2 million illegal border crossings. Most of them are still in America. 2022 we are currently at about 2.5 million. So in just the months that Brandon stole his way into the White House, it's about 5 million added. So that's 25% increase just from those 2 years. There is a study in Yale which did the same thing in this model, and they came to about 35 million, I believe. I did contact them, the individual who made that report, and he has not responded to me in any way. So I've chosen to exclude the Yale study from this, simply because I don't find the individual who made the report reliable, particularly because he ignored my inquiries. So we move on. This is the meat and bones of the structure. It is literally just a giant spreadsheet. So row 1, each individual state. Row 2 is their census population, and then I have a few columns added, rows added. So the first one is the number of legal immigrants per the FAIR study. Now we have Pew Research, Statista on row 4 and 5. Row 6 is the post-enumeration error, which is basically a percentage error in counting of the state. So, and then we do a combination of those. So first adjust the population for the error made, and then remove the illegal immigrants from it for all 3 studies, and then we have an unweighted. So basically at the moment I've modeled the unweighted scheme just to show you that this is correct. So we see California 51 plus 1, because every state gets a free seat. So we have 52 congressional districts, which is exactly what we should expect. So I'm going to do a quick just creating a canvas for myself, and this is always fun because I can just use paint for this. So what happens? Simple. Every single one of these columns is calculated by a simple mathematical formula. So we have ourselves an apportionment number, which equals to the population divided by the square root of n times n plus 1. You know what? I'm just gonna redo that because it was absolutely horrendous. No, I can do that a lot easier. And this is where the physics system here comes in. Something like this. So this is Pythagoras. It's not for us today. So we have a population and we divide it by the square root of n times n plus 1. Alright, it doesn't want to do what I want to do. That's fine. So this is called the Huntington-Hill equation, and the reason why I mark it with a star is because it's an in product and not an out product. And this is a mathematical term that we use mostly for matrix calculations, sometimes for vectorial calculations. But in the case of scalar variables, scalar numbers, it doesn't matter if you use an in product or an out product. So the out product is marked with a cross. And the in product is actually, let's see if it has it here, it's actually a dot. So the standard keyboard for Microsoft uses a star for the multiplication function. It should actually be a dot. Just a little mathematical lesson for you. So this is the formula that we use. P stands for the population of the state. So that is row 2, all of these. And then the number of n is the apportionment, so is this column A all the way down. And I've made the model so it includes 100 seats. And the way I did that, the reason for that is because I also will do alternative mathematical calculations for the apportionment in which the number of congressional seats isn't set at 435. And if that is the case, then you'll see a state like Texas reaching 61 congressional districts. So this is the mathematical equation we use. So in the case of California, for an example, we add 39.5 million is up on top here. And then we add n equals 1. So it becomes the population, so 35 million divided by the square root of 2. Which becomes about 74%-ish of the let's just check. Right, so we have the square root of 2, 1.4, and we divide it by 2. So it's about 70.7% of the initial number, so the initial population of California. That is what the initial apportionment number is. So California's 2nd district. Pretty easy to explain. So we have all this stuff, and I can show you that if I change it to the federation number, then you'll find, for an example, if I just move it here, and we have California, suddenly it's at 46. Let's move it all the way there. So if I compensate for the error in the census and for the illegal immigration population, you'll find that California is at 48 plus 1, so it's 49 House seats plus 2 Senate seats, so it's 51 electoral votes instead of the 54 they have now. So I already proved to you that illegal immigration has a measurable effect in the Electoral College, and the error that the Census Bureau made also has a change in the Electoral College. So this is the reason why I made this video, and this is the comparison between my model and the census. So the census, it has each individual state like this with their apportionment value, and I just do that. I just do a comparison. Do I allocate the seats in the same order? If yes, it's written down as true. If false, that means I've switched the two around. So in this case, Florida's 5th seat, Florida's 5th seat and Ohio's 3rd seat, I've switched them around, and it's a minuscule margin. This is the error that I have for the entirety, and I've plotted it also on the right in this graph. And it shows you that the minimum error that I have is 0.05%, and the maximum error is 0.35%. Average, it's 0.1% error. That means this model is 99.9% accurate. And I want to reiterate that, or I want to re-emphasize that, because there are probably going to be some people who are saying like, oh yeah, you're just acting like a Republican partisan because you say that Democrat states are overcounted. No, it's the fact. And I will prove that to you in this series. Again, five-parter. Yeah, this is the first time I'm using a camera, so I'm basically distracted with OBS at this point. Funny to watch yourself mumble your way through through this kind of stuff. So 0.1% error, which is the average over the entirety of the comparison that I made, which is all the numbers provided by the Census Bureau. So these are the amount of congressional districts, and this is exactly the way that the electoral college is now distributed. So 54 seats for California, 30 for Florida, 40 for Texas, and so on and so forth. Here's a little bonus I made, and it's a placement error. What does it mean? Simple. You saw it with Florida and Ohio. If the order is wrong, I wanted to double check the numbers more specifically, and it turns out that 39 of the 395 order values were wrong. So in the order. In the end, it didn't change shit, so I'm content with that. But this is basically the main issue and the main crux of this. So it is an accurate model, just proving that to you here. And now we have the error made by the census. So down the line, in December of 2021, the Census Bureau came out with a report which basically said, oh yeah, we made some errors here and there regarding the census, and I'll just pull it up for you real quick, because it's a very important thing to know, and this is it basically. So the census said we have a error of 0.24% of the US national population. Whoopsie, they said. And they said also we have undercounted Alabama by 1%. Alaska overcounted by 1%. So that's the error. And you see here that if we just do it like this, the overcounting, we'll find that anything significant, so Hawaii, Delaware, Rhode Island, Nevada, Minnesota, New York, Utah, Oklahoma, and Massachusetts, and Maine. Yeah, we can do Colorado as well. So from these states and DC, we find that Oklahoma and Utah are overcounted, which is 2 red states out of the 13, I believe. No, out of the 12. So 2 out of 12 are Republican states, the other 9 are Democrat states and DC, so you have 9 Democrat states overcounted. And we do the undercounting, we can do the exact same thing, and it's less than 2%, so these ones, we'll find out that they're all Republican states. All of them. We can expand it by saying anything above 1.5, that's fine. And then we'll find, just Illinois is undercounted on the Democrat side, all the other states are Republican states. So you'll find that there's a little bit fishy going on there with the census, and that they deliberately advantage Democrats. So what is going to happen if we compensate for that? Well, here we go. So the order of numbers changes quite a bit, as you can see. And this is the line we draw. So here we reached 435 electoral seats. And what we see here is that Tennessee gains a seat, Texas gains another seat, and then we have Florida. In addition to that, we have Colorado dropping below that point. We have Rhode Island falling off, and we also have Minnesota. That means Colorado loses 1 seat, Minnesota and Rhode Island. So we can calculate that further in. I can also make new electoral maps for these things, because there's a neat little tool on the internet, District Builder. I love it. I like playing around with it. Basically, it's just therapeutic for me. So here's the idea. the district for Seth Magaziner, who won the election, your district shouldn't exist. Same thing for Caraveo over at Colorado's 8th. Your district should not exist. And it's the same thing for, well, if you redistricting, it's probably going to be Angie Craig's district that's going to be gone. So, Craig, you shouldn't have a House seat. And these seats would move to Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. So there is a distinct possibility that Mr. Cooper over in Nashville didn't need to retire because his seat probably would have been retained. Texas would have gained another congressional seat, so instead of 2 they would have gained 3. Florida, instead of gaining 1 seat, they would have gained 2. So I think that's a pretty big problem. So I've proven that to you already with this. Now furthermore, I have also 3 separate videos here. So with the FAIR, the study, with a Pew Research study, with the statistics, so that's 3 videos. I can do some fictional scenarios, such as what happens if DCs provide a statehood. It's a really short one. Puerto Rico, it's a really short one. DC added to Maryland, pretty short one. This I have 3 funny scenarios regarding California, Texas, and New Hampshire seceding, I should say. Which can be also a fun video. I have a scenario for Canada being annexed, so that's a full-on Fallout timeline. I like that one. And then finally, we have the alternative voting measures, so the Wyoming rule and the Cube Road rule. And again, calculating in illegal immigration. So I have plenty of more material for this. I will make a video on that. It will be like a weekly thing, I think. I don't want this to be like 1 week, get the project out, done. Like one pump, done. I think that's a little too good for speed. I don't know if this even hits the mark. So I'm gonna leave it at this. Just within a half an hour mark. Content with that. So this is a little bit of a new format. I hope I'm not too distracted with OBS. It's more of the ADHD side, I think. So we'll see if this works. Feedback always appreciated. I'd like to have debates on this issue, this kind of issue. This is very important, not just because of House seats, congressional voting, but it's also based on taxation. So each individual state gets taxpayer allocated funds, subsidies by the federal government based on the number of congressional districts they have. And if this allegation is wrong, that means that certain states receive too much money and other states too few. This is basically a very important issue, and I will reach out to Congress for this, because this is something that needs to be remedied. Thank you kindly for watching. Any feedback is appreciated. Like, subscribe, that kind of stuff. And I'll see you next time around. Cheers.